If you're anything like me and you spent most of your life living in the city, then it may have taken you a while to figure out what the high beams are for on your car. But if you spend any time driving in the country, you quickly figure it out. Another thing you quickly figure out is that there's a certain etiquette to driving with high beams. Namely, that if you're in a small two-lane road and there's someone coming at you, you turn off your high beams the moment you can see them, because you don't want to blind them and wind up sending them down a ravine. Well, the other day I was driving back from the East Coast, and I was driving through a heavily wooded area. It was extremely dark, and this guy was coming at me with his high beams on, and he didn't turn them off. He came all the way to me. I was completely blinded for probably maybe 20 seconds, and I could have easily driven off the road, gone off a bridge. It was incredibly dangerous. I was so angry with this guy. He went straight by me, didn't even glance over. Such a jerk. I wanted to kill him. Just about that time, I realized I hadn't turned off my high beams either. Interesting moment. So that anger and that pain, in my eyes, suddenly turned to guilt. And that guilt, interestingly enough, turned to compassion for the next guy who drove by me and didn't turn his lights off. In many ways, this is life. This is exactly how all of life works. Somebody makes a mistake, it makes us angry. We make the same mistake, and assuming we're self-aware enough, we have a bit of that understanding next time we encounter someone doing that to us. Of course, there's a lot of other things that happen too. For instance, right after that happened, I turned off my high beams every time I ran into another car. Now, how long did that last? I don't know. Probably a while. It was a while longer before I ever forgot to do that again. And it was also a while that I continued to have compassion for drivers that, like myself, had forgotten to turn off their high beams. And that is really how everything works. Someone causes us pain, we go through guilt, we go into compassion, we learn things. This is how the entire world works. Now, there's other ways to gain compassion. Anyone who's been deeply into Buddhism and done loving kindness meditations, where you sort of come to have compassion for the entire world, and that's wonderful. It's a powerful thing. It is a somewhat abstract compassion in many ways, because to some extent, when we are doing that, when we are coming to that realization, which can also be reached in many other religions, certainly you can come to have that kind of love for people through Christianity, but it's not exactly the kind of compassion that you come to through something happening. It is a more abstract type of compassion. And what I think is so powerful about that kind of compassion is that it is learned compassion. It's that every time we make a mistake, we are a little more understanding of someone else making the same mistake. But as you think about that, you also think, what are the 50 other things I'm doing on the road other than not turning my high beams off? How many times have I cut someone off and didn't realize? How many times have I turned in front of someone? How many times have I driven in the left lane and kept someone from passing? And all the different little things you can do. And all life is like that. Each one of us is growing, is learning. And the simple compassion, the simple coming to the realization that everyone else is doing the exact same same thing that you are, is making the same mistakes, and very often for the same reasons. And personally, in many ways, I really do believe that's what life is. I think that is the meaning of life, that evolution that we go through, that way that we find compassion, that way that we come to understand our fellow man. I'm the Urban Omnist, still trying to evolve. I don't know where to start. So the other day I was walking down the street and I ran into a squirrel, and the squirrel tried to sue me for running into it. And I was like, I'm not even in my car. And he's like, I don't care. You have much more body mass than I do. And I said, well, it's my foot that hurts.